How is everybody doing? How is everybody doing? The time is just after 7 in the morning, Eastern time. I wanted to cover something that happened in South Africa in the last few days. The National Assembly or Parliament had a plenary session which debated the new policy position by the United States government of cutting funding or aid from South Africa. And there was some debate in Parliament, and I'm just going to play some of that remarks made by political leaders, and I'm going to react, respond to it, and tell you where I agree and where I disagree, and so on and so forth. Let's go into it. Starting up is Julius Malema, the leader of the Economic Freedom Front, opposition leader. Here are his remarks.
The States of America, George Bush, declared what became known as the War on Terror on Iraq and Afghanistan, stating that, I quote, "It will not end until every terrorist group of global reach has been found, stopped, and defeated." What followed was a massive disinformation campaign to justify the 2003 invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan under the pretext of locating and destroying weapons of mass destruction. Decades later, no such weapons were ever found. This invasion was about minerals and oil reserves, not weapons of mass destruction. Iraq and Afghanistan have never recovered. Cuba, Libya, Venezuela, and Chile are examples of nations that have suffered from U.S. interventions because of their socialist policies, justified by false intelligence to advance imperialism. Cuba has endured decades of sanctions for nationalization of strategic sectors of the economy, supporting African liberation and socialism, while Libya was destroyed because Gaddafi rejected U.S. dominance. We raise these historical facts because history must guide us in everything we do. When Donald Trump declares that, I open quote, "bad things are happening."
Okay, folks. Let me let him finish that last.
Happening in South Africa without evidence, we must not assume that the USA is misinformed. Instead, we must question the real intention behind such statement. After Trump's remarks, the US froze foreign aid globally under the pretext of assessing alignment with the policy outlook. For South Africa, this meant...
Okay. I think what Julius Malema here has done is that he has situated this issue of this dispute between South Africa and the United States within the historical context of how the United States in the past has used false pretenses to intervene and interfere in foreign sovereign nations while lying to the world in terms of why they're doing what they're doing. There's a long history of this being done by the US, where the US has been lying consistently and insistently to the world about the motivations of why they're doing what they're doing. Case in point being the war in Iraq, Afghanistan, the war in Libya, where they lied to the world about Gaddafi's intentions to kill his own people. And I don't really give a damn what you think about Gaddafi or what you think about Saddam Hussein. Those were sovereign states that the United States invaded illegally and under false pretenses. So I know that a lot of people who are in the West and who are sympathetic to the West come with all kinds of creative reasons of why to justify those illegal actions. And I don't care whether these guys were bad guys or not. That's not That's not the reason why these nations were invaded. And that's not a justification allowed by international law that you're going to invade a sovereign country led by a bad country or a bad guy or a dictator. Because the US, by the way, the US supports dictators to this day, like Saudi Arabia, for instance. So that can't be the case. The issue here is that is the lies that were used as a pretext to interfere in these countries. And he's saying that, tying it to saying that the US saying what they are saying about South Africa now, which is obviously false. It is so false that it is beyond belief that someone can say something so untrue. That now Malema is saying that we mustn't just assume that the US is misinformed. That's a naive take. He's saying it's likely that the motives are more nefarious than that. And I'm afraid to say that he might be onto something. He might be onto something. And I've already made videos saying that the foreign policy disagreements between South Africa and the US are actually what has brought South Africa onto the US's crosshairs. The fact that we're on the wrong side with them when it comes to the oppression of the Palestinian people. The fact that we are friends with Russia, the fact that we're friends with Cuba, and all of those people and Iran makes it that the United States establishment is not happy with South Africa. So there is a reason to believe that these are actions to punish South Africa for not supporting, or punish South Africa for taking Israel, for instance, to the International Criminal Court, which I think that Israel actually would deserve to be taken to court for the actions that have been carried out. And that's one issue that I disagree with the US fundamentally the most, the issue of Israel. And it's a very unfortunate situation, this issue of Israel and my disagreement with them. But it's very likely that this issue of white Africana, whatever, oppression, which is absolute bullshit, is just a pretext for all these other issues that the United States fundamentally disagrees with South Africa on. And the fact that when you disagree with a powerful nation, things like this happen. So even though I do not agree with Julius Malema on a lot of issues, an array of issues, I think that he might be onto something on this one. With that said, let's continue.
And PEPFAR funding of HIV/AIDS response was under threat. On 26 February 2025, the freeze became permanent, terminating funding indefinitely. The US aggression towards South Africa is nothing more than Israel's revenge for our moral stance in support of Palestine. Meanwhile, some of us have been labeled international criminals, a destination used before the West assassinates those who opposed its agenda. Before invading the nations, the US always fabricates human rights violation to justify intervention. Today, same tactics are being used against South Africa. The growing calls by right-wing groups for foreign funding to establish independent states and to be armed by foreign interests.
Yeah, historically he's right. He's right. Each time the US intervenes illegally in another nation's affairs, they always come up with all kinds of fanciful notions about human rights infringements and violations. It's well documented. So he's right. He's right. It's just that for me the question is that I'm not sure if South Africa has the requisite strength and resources to be able to withstand a fight with the United States, even if the United States in this case is on the wrong side of the issues. But on the facts, on the historical context of what has happened in the past when the US conducts illegal actions against sovereign nations, which has happened several times, they always fabricate human rights issues that don't exist or blown out of proportion, lies by omission, and sometimes lies of commission, funding rebels and then calling it organic uprising like they did in Syria. They've done all kinds of things. Replacing one dictator with someone worse, like in Syria now, the person who is the president of Syria is actually a terrorist who has ties with Al Qaeda. The things that the US has done in the past when it comes to their advancing their interests, it is to the point where you can't trust anything that they say because they lie so much. But it is a very dangerous world when you are a nation that is not powerful like South Africa, that you need to have friends then. Because if you're going to go head on against the United States of America, then you need to have powerful friends. And I don't know where South Africa imagines it's going to get powerful friends from, because Russia right now is engaged in a bloody war. Maybe China can support South Africa, but I don't see how that is going to happen, because China doesn't give anyone their support without demanding a heavy toll on those people that they are supporting. So it's a very dangerous game that South Africa is entering, because when you are encountering a bully, especially if it's a bully that is very powerful and you don't have power yourself, you need to know who you are and you need to know where you are. So I'm not so sure about the wisdom of this obstinance, even if the United States is on the wrong side of this matter, which I believe that the United States is on the wrong side of this issue. So that's just like showing me, showing all of us, in terms of that we live in a very dangerous world. We live in a very dangerous world. And there are no easy answers. There are no easy solutions. Okay. With that said, there is a lot more that Julius Malema said, but I'm going to keep it there for now. Let me know, folks, what your thoughts are on the take that Julius Malema said. I still think that this issue requires wisdom, and I don't think that Julius Malema is the right person to deal with these intricate and difficult matters, even though he is right on a lot of the fundamentally historical facts of the matter, on the actions of the United States. So it's difficult. What do you folks think? Thoughts below.